I guess. If
Jesus.
I put it in the cloud, there's no knowing where it's going to end up.
Yep.
Okay. So leave the mics open, ask any question as we go. So it's not a one-sided lecture. It's really a discussion, questions asked for two reasons. A, you get a better knowledge of the boat. B, you ask questions that I might not have answers for, and I go away and get them. And C, it helps develop it. You can ask questions that are important for the next time I show people. So there's a whole reason why we need to have it as interactive. So I'm going to share the screen with you. And I need to share, which one? Where is it? Hang on a second. Just get it visible. It's this one.
When you get a chance, JK, would you also mind sharing that virtual tour with me? I've only got the old one.
There is only one. Oh, have you got the one before the fit out?
Yes.
Okay. See if I can find it. Oh, there we go. So what I should now do, I think are you guys seeing it now?
Yep, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, let's full screen that, and then you'll see it even better. Okay, so you should be looking at the aft end of the vessel. That's right. Are we looking at the aft deck? Are we?
We are.
Yep.
Right. Everybody hear me fine?
Clear as. Thank you.
Cool. Right. So we're standing. Get an idea. We're standing in the port aft section of the deck, looking backwards. Okay. 350 mercuries. You guys asked the question whether it needs premium or regular. Premium would be better, but regular is fine. I think you might find a slightly better consumption and maybe if you could measure it, maybe a slight improvement on performance. But the mercury guys are quite happy with regular.
Is there an additive we can throw in that increases its efficiency?
I've heard of these things. Yeah, I don't know. You'd have to sort of ask around about them. I think my opinion of these is manufacturers claim a lot of things that might or might not be correct. Before you go throwing things in like that, I think you do need to get it cleared from Regloss or Mercury.
If I could just add some useless information, our fuel was going up tomorrow to $3.60 a litre.
What? $3.60.
At Paris.
At Paris, yep. Which means it's going up more.
I think I'm going to get myself a tanker and make money taking petrol out to Barrier.
Mind you, I paid $2 a litre for diesel the other day.
Yeah, so our diesel's gone up. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, twin 350s. What else? The refueling cap there. Everybody can see my little cursor moving around, I assume?
Yep.
Okay, so fuel cap there, and there's another one on the other side.
Yep, that's the same.
There's a single tank. The design is 1100 litres. We've set the fuel to 950. I'll show you on the fuel setting in a moment, but theoretically that tank should hold 1100 litres. We find removing both caps while you're refueling sort of helps with venting. Might be my imagination, might not, but it's a habit we've got into.
Yeah, same system as the FINA.
Pardon?
It's the same as the FINA.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and there's off cleats just behind here. You can see the cleats sticking out there. There's one on this side as well. They've been, as part of the refit, they've been grunted up on the inside. They've put extra plates on them. Tow post, we had these grunted up, rated 3.5 ton. We did some tests with these engines at the harbour. We went and tied up to the harbour and put a strain gauge in, and we couldn't get more than about 1600 pull out of these engines. So add from shock loadings, 3.5 ton should be plenty for the rating of this bar. Obviously, if you remove these at any point, the rating just drops to a minimal, because this is what is taking the strain. If you were to remove this by taking these out, this little timber flaps down and makes it easier to get through here, but I can't see any reason why you guys would ever be running around, or any other Coast Guard boat would be running around without a tow post in position. What else are we looking at the back here? These two are fine. Don't tow off them. They're not rated or anything special. We find they're quite nice as extra cleats just for mooring or barging vessels and so on. Sometimes I see the guys put a line through here and then onto that cleat. Sort of keeps it out of the way of the engines. Right, scuppers. You've got a scupper each side. You've got these little footlights, which I'll show you a little bit more about in a while. In this locker, you guys obviously know what's in by now. There's a steering valve there, which I am not sure what it's for, and I must find out.
I'd say bleeding the power steering unit.
Yeah, that's exactly what it'd be. It'd be maybe potentially aligning the two outboards.
You see, it's open or closed.
Mm.
Avoid loss of steering. Do not open valve while engine is running. Unless you're balancing them or something. I'll find that out. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's probably something to do with the balancing. Underneath it there is the gas detector. This has just been replaced. It was faulty during survey. They picked it up and I put a new one in just a week or so before we sent the boat out to you.
So in terms of gas detector, what gas is it detecting?
Oh, it's really just for fuel fumes. And that's the only gas you should find on the vessel because you've got no other gas.
Fuel fumes in the
Okay.
bilge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they give a lot of trouble. Rayglass tells me off the record that they advise customers if the things start making noise just to switch them off. So they're probably not too responsible. But also in the same place, fuel cutoff. You sort of got to, if you don't know where these are, you just got to pop your head in there. You'll see one on each side. Although there's one tank, there's a cutoff to each engine.
Mhm.
Like usual, you know, in line where the pipe is open, cross pipe is closed. Oops, that's still fuel cutoff, steering valve, and the last one, bilge pumps. So you've got two bilge pumps here. You've got an auto one and a manual one. So one's got a float switch in, and the other one is a manual. Now there's another little float switch up there. This does not turn a pump on. All it does is set off an alarm. So if you hear the alarm, it means come and have a look. Something's going wrong here because you've got water up to there. The auto switch for the pump itself is contained down here. So that is just a separate alarm. Now this is the pump we're talking about that you guys got a problem with, though. Yeah, so Lance and I were talking about it this morning. First thing is check that you're getting power here, I guess. And if you are getting power there, obviously that pump's gone. But interesting, John, you and Tony actually ran it just before survey, eh?
Yeah, we did, and like I admitted to Lance and nobody else, is that we actually failed to open the seacock first, so we were wondering why it wasn't working.
Oh,
But
goodness me, John. Right.
But once we actually did that, we had no trouble with it. We found it had good pressure. It primed really easily, and then the only thing I haven't seen, JK, but you've put it on the hose, haven't you? That 90-degree bend.
Yeah, the hose would come out of here and kink and fold. So we've put a 90-degree bend on the hose, so now it comes in nice straight and just.
We did actually plug that in before we tried to start it.
Yeah, that was a good point. That was a good idea.
And we actually had water just so obviously the ocean level was around about the same with that output because we did have a bit of water there, but obviously no pressure with the pump not running.
Yeah, you got to have about an inch or so of water before it kicks off the float switch down here. Now, looking at the aft deck for a moment, along here, and the same on the starboard side, are airtight compartments. Now, if for any reason you get water in them at some point through somewhere strange or unknown or rain or whatever, in here, on the side, this is on starboard and on port, the same place, that is a drain for those two compartments.
Oh, okay.
So part of boat check's not a bad idea. Every now and then put your hands in here and just open those up. If water runs out of there, start asking questions. They should be dry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so that's all you've got in that compartment there. So let's move forward to And there's any other questions on anything we're looking at back here just now?
That's good. No, thank you.
You see these little loops they got underneath the.
Yep.
You can put some units put a sort of a rail of something there and chuck it over the side if you're retrieving persons out of the water.
Okay, so just presumably, are we going through those aft lockers that are in the transom or not?
Yeah,
that's on the next location. We're looking back at something.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
Before we move on, JK, have you got anywhere in here around pre-start checks on the outboards with the?
No.
Okay, so that's one thing to remember, guys. Is Mercury does recommend you dip the oil.
Yeah, that's that is actually in the MOS manual.
Yeah, and they can be a little bit fiddly until you sort of get familiar with them, taking the cowling off and putting them on again.
Have you got to take these cowlings off to dip them, John?
Yeah, you do on these ones.
Oh, it's a bugger on the 9 meter.
Yeah.
You've got a little thing that you open at the top. Yeah.
Would have been so nice if they did that on the 350s as well.
Yeah.
But no, you got to take the whole cowling off.
And that's you and I took that one off. A bit of a pain to get back, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward from this location, fresh water. So there's a freshwater tank which fills, your basin in the heads draws water from. There's another 2 of those footlights. I showed you the 2 aft ones. There's another 2 there. I'll talk about them in a moment. See, we've added mid cleats here.
How many litres is the water tank?
Pass. I don't know, and it's not actually in the.
I'll find out and let you know in a minute.
Yep, thanks.
It's not in the spec, John. Pretty sure it's not. Have a look. This is the thing you're talking about, Skinny, where you suspected you didn't have an O-ring, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So not shown here because it was we sorted it out afterwards. We've got one extinguisher here, this location.
Yes.
And I'll show you where the others are in the cabin when we get there. This has been removed. On the 9 meters, we can get an extinguisher each side, but the 9 meters have got smaller extinguishers. We found with the bigger extinguisher on the 12.5, we managed to get one on this side. And strangely enough, this seat has been mounted closer to this side than this one, so we couldn't actually get an extinguisher in this location. So I'll show you where the other one is.
So is that CO2 or dry powder?
This is dry powder. You've got dry powder and foam.
Yeah.
There was a CO2 on there, wasn't there? I think it was.
There will be.
I think we
Be
saw
3
it.
extinguishers for a 12.5
we saw
metre.
it, yeah.
Right, so you can see where we're standing now, dead center forward in the deck. So let's start off looking into these blockers that you were talking about. Right, so we've got battery switches in each side. Now the battery switches on the boat are remote. You don't have to go and open the lockers to switch them on. The switches are at the helm, and then there are solenoid powered switches at the various locations. So there are only 3 switches that you flick on at the helm and it turns on all these battery switches. So looking in the starboard side, this is the battery switch. And what happens when you switch it on, in the center of this yellow knob at the top, there's a section, as it goes on, it clunks and it pulls down to the bottom here. You'll see it becomes recessed. If for some reason you turn on the battery switch at the helm and you don't hear a good solid clunk, this is not, for some reason or other, it hasn't engaged. And you can come along here and you put your finger on the top of this and you just push it down. That's how you manually override it. There's some instructions here. In that position, it's enabled. You can see the little arrow pointing, it's gone down. It's up, it's disabled. Oh, sorry, it's switched off, but it's ready to be switched on. And if you turn the switch the other way, you've actually turned this battery switch off. It will not switch off with the remote switch. Now, the emergency parallel on this side is the house battery to port engine emergency parallel. Now, I think that's a mistake. I think it's house battery to starboard engine. But the point is, on your starboard side, this is the parallel house battery to start. On the other side, you've got battery to battery, start battery to start battery. So generally, your house battery is not an issue because once your engines run, that charges it. Generally, if you have a problem with a flat battery, it's just the start battery is a problem one. So the parallel for the start battery is on the other side. Do not attempt to start the engine when the switch is closed. There's a bit of a warning switch up here for it. That's probably all I need to show you right here. There's 2 batteries in here. You got the start battery and house battery here. Now, the way the batteries on this boat are wired up, there are 4 batteries, starboard start, port start, and 2 house batteries. However, the house batteries are wired together in parallel. So in effect, you've got one large house battery, which coincidentally consists of 2 batteries. So in effect, you've got one house battery, hence the 3 switches. So if we look in here, also on this side,
Just the house battery amp hour.
I
On there.
don't know, I'm sorry. Just make a note here, I'll find that out too. Battery amp hours. It shouldn't be a problem anyway. With the electrical survey, they've gone through all of the current draws and everything. And at one point, when we started off, we thought, oh, we're going to have to replace these batteries. And the regulars had told us how they were going to do it. But when they put the survey together and calculated all the draw of all of the extra electronics we put on it, wasn't a problem. So we've been able to leave the batteries.
Now, you were saying, JK, that some of these batteries are coming up years old.
Yeah,
so you may start looking to lose some of the quality on them.
Yes, because you guys had already picked up that you had a low voltage when you turned it on, but you suspected it might be because you had the GPS and radar on at the same time. Could be, but keep an eye on the batteries. Wouldn't surprise me if these batteries start every now and then. We have replaced 1 or 2 on some of the other boats already.
And are they AGM or lithium or what?
No, they're just
Don't need
ordinary.
any maintenance is probably what I'm asking. So.
No, we replace them with the batteries we get from Century UASA free on COPS. Huh?
Yeah, I think they are low maintenance, or no maintenance, potentially even no maintenance.
Yeah.
But if you find you need replacements, just tell me what it is that you want, and I'll check with Century UASA if they can supply that.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. They've got no maintenance. There's no water to check or anything. You just leave them when they pack up, and you ask John B for another one. So also in this side here is the bow thruster circuit breaker. Oh, sorry, the bow thruster main switch and a fuse. So your bow thruster control is up at the helm. This is where you turn it on. Now it goes off if you turn the battery switches off, so I wouldn't see much reason for not leaving the switch switched on. You're not going to flatten the battery with it on.
So that runs off the house battery or the start batteries?
No, that'll be a start battery. The bow thruster being that heavy, they tend to wire them in that it only runs if an engine is physically running.
Yeah.
So much like an anchor winch. So I'm guessing it's on the starboard battery because it's on the starboard side.
Yeah.
But as I said, from my boat, I'd leave that on because when you want the bow thruster, you want it now. You don't want to have to go looking for the switch. But then you guys will be spoiled with the bow thruster. You've also got a shower in the transom. Looking on this side, that's the shower seen from the inside.
Yeah, Skinny found out that worked.
I guess, is that fresh water or salt? Anybody, did you pick that up, Skinny?
Fresh
He
water.
didn't lick it, no.
The switch
No, I
was
didn't.
fresh water.
I think it's fresh water, and there's one switch for your fresh water pump, which we'll show you in a moment.
Yeah.
So that's the inside of it. Obviously, it sticks out on the far side of the transom there. Oh, sorry, I keep minimizing that. Okay, is the other side port. So as expected, here's the port battery switch. So now if you look on the top of this, you can see that little bit is recessed.
Yes.
So that's switched on. When you switch it off, clunk, that little bit comes up. They give a good solid clunk, so when you turn them on, you can actually hear them coming on. Yeah. And here's the emergency parallel, port start to starboard start. So this is your start battery parallel. Down the bottom here, your battery voltage sensing relay. Nothing maintenance in there. That's just sensors which battery needs the charge from the engine and directs it accordingly. Shower battery switches, right? So your you've had a look in here already. This is a 70, this happens to be a 9-meter box that we opened up, but it's same inside. This is 70 meters of rope, so there's plenty storage here, and then storage up here for your sacrificial links, anchor retrieval chain, other carabiners, whatever you carry.
What's the length of our tow rope? Does anybody
I
know?
thought it was 100.
100?
But-
Yeah, I actually managed to flake our tow rope into this, so yeah, I was quite surprised.
Just into the well or to the whole
Just into
thing?
the well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Have you got a particularly bulky rope, have you?
I think we've got 100 meters, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, we managed to give oodles of storage here. In here, you've seen this already. So you got your dewatering pump, fire pump. Also in here, you'll see there's 2 lay flat hoses, one with a nozzle on for firefighting, and one shorter section without a nozzle. That's for dewatering. When you dewater, you don't want a nozzle on the end. You want no restraint. You want the water just to flush out. You've seen the suction hoses where they're stored up front. Now, we did find with this pump a little modification we did on one of them, which you might consider. This fitting here, if you turn this around to face the other way, when you pull this pump out and put it on this non-slip mat, at the moment you'd put your suction hose on there and your discharge hose on here, and your exhaust and your pull handle face towards the box. If you do it the other way and turn the pump around, when you pull the pump out, this faces out, your pull faces out, and your exhaust faces out. This is something we picked up when we were running one of these pumps. Now, that's if you're running the pump here. If you take the pump off and you put it off to the side, it really doesn't matter. Now, the lay flat hose, John ran it out, found it a bit long, so we've trimmed it. If your pump stands in this location here now, the blue hose goes up the side of the vessel, and somebody can stand on the bow of the vessel using it without excessive length, so you get no kinks and stuff in it. There's a little block here retaining the thing so it doesn't slide around. Then behind it, there's the storage for the hose. So this is the little red one. You've seen that's the one that goes in that pump we've been talking about. Now this has been replaced with a 90-degree fitting, which I'm sure you've noticed. So this is the one with the nozzle, and this is the one just for discharge. I think this one's about 3 meters long. 12.5 meters is the length of the boat. That's not the length of that hose. Stretcher sits very nicely on your deck. You've got plenty of room here or here to tend the patient on the stretcher.
Our stretch is actually in alongside one of the seats in
Starboard side.
starboard side cabin.
This is the actual stretcher that you've got.
Yep, but it's actually inside the cabin.
Yes, but I'm just saying I'm illustrating how large it is that you can lay a patient out.
Oh, I see. Sorry, that's just sitting there.
Yeah. No, it's not stored here. I just put it on the deck to take a picture.
Oh, yep. Silly me.
Or as I said, it also lies fine there. So you can put a patient here, or down the other side. The 9 meters, you can only do it crossways like this because the obviously the deck space is considerably less than what you've got. While we're at this location, you'll see on both sides you've got tube inflation points. There are 7 compartments in these tubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 accessible from the foredeck. So unlike some boats where you've got to go into the cabin and get under the bunk and strip things out to get to these valves, these are all very easily accessible. Now you've got these handles on the tubes, which nobody really knows what they're for. There's been a couple of theories. Somebody says if you're sitting on the deck, you can hang on to them. Even Rayglass, I think, are not quite sure. They traditionally put those handles on there, but they actually get quite handy sometimes. You wouldn't want to put too much strain on them, but for a light line, you can actually put it through and tie it on there if you've got somebody hanging on, or a little boat next to your vessel.
I can tell you who will know, John. JK. Charles will know. He would have designed them.
Who's that?
Charles. He would have designed these tubes back in the day.
Who would have?
Charles from the trailer place.
Oh, would he?
Yeah,
What,
he
ask
would
him
have
one day.
designed.
Right, so looking forward, we're going to deal with the bridge where we got a point closer up here, but just some of the stuff I'll show you here. On the sides here, we had hoped to be able to insert recessed storage like this in this back area here. Rayglass said absolutely no ways, this is structural, we couldn't affect this. So we've put these on one on either side. That just happens to have a shore power coil in it, but you can put soft stuff in there, ropes, people's water bottles, lunch bits and pieces. There's obviously one on each side here. They happen to have the tow rope. On your vessel down here, it's actually a little bit up behind the seat, but it's on this face here, is the shore power socket. Now, we had a discussion about this shore power. On the vessels, we either fitted them with a battery charger or shore power. So yours, obviously you couldn't run 230 volts out to the boat at any point to plug in a battery charger, so we put shore power on your boat. I realize it's not going to be on a Merino. Whether it is one day or not, I don't know. So the shore power is largely going to be, well, not much use to at the moment where the boat's going to be. So we'll need to put an inquiry with Rayglass and find out if there's a way that we can have a solar panel wired into the battery charging system, because there's obviously battery management on these boats. If you plug the thing in, you might be able to get them to trickle feed all 3 batteries. So we'll go into that, but that's why you got shore power. This location here, you shouldn't have to get onto the roof for any reason. We've tried to make this arch and everything removable from the roof. Now, you guys don't take the arch down, you don't take your antennas down, so really you probably never go up on the roof. But if you ever do, we've put these step come handles up the side to make it safer to get up and down. Got them on both sides. What else from this point? Oh, yep. So on the back edge of the roof here are 2 lights as well, which I'm going to talk about in a while. So remember, on the aft deck now we've got floodlight, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is, 3, 4 footlights, which I'll talk about in a moment. Any other questions or comments before we go forward?
You had, John, just for the for everybody else, you did say, we had heard early on that there was an issue with the seats breaking, but
Yes.
we're saying they were over torqued, right?
We had problems on the marshal training program and marshalling. We broke a couple of these seats. I was looking after the boats at the time, and I got a report of the helm seat had broken off. The skipper was actually standing here, and she was holding onto the seat, and the guy hit a bit of chop, and she went forward and hung on this handle and pulled the seat off. So that sort of raised concerns. They gave me a replacement seat. I replaced it, and I thought, oh, I'm not so happy about this. So I turned around and I grabbed this seat by the handle and ripped it off, which really rang alarm bells. Now, so the Shark guys, to their credit, took it very, very seriously. And what had happened is the suspension part of the seat, which is this sort of Z part, if you like, bolts onto the seat itself with bolts accessible from underneath. And when we took them off, we found that some were bolted with 4 bolts and some were bolted with 6. So that already was a problem. We thought, well, why are some stronger than others? So they agreed that all of them needed 6. But what had happened was, there's a little note on here too, because it's plastic, the torque on those is 5 Newton meter. Now, for those of you who know anything about torque or have used a torque wrench, 5 Newton meter is not too much beyond finger tight. And these have been cranked up very, very tight, and you could clearly see the plastic had been cracked and in some places broken. So I'm sure it led to a very interesting discussion between Shark Seats and Rayglass, who assembled these seats. But Shark came up, brought a team up from Dunedin, and they went through and they condemned approximately 90% of the seats after the America's Cup. Took them all off, cut them up and threw them away. Brought up new seats, did a little mod here, and put them back and talked them properly. So the jury's out on the seats at the moment. They have been on other Coast Guard boats. No breakages have been reported. So we've just got to run with it. I think they've solved the problem. If a seat or two break on the Coast Guard boats, there's going to be major investigations and hell to pay. But that's a story around them. Shark believe they have found the problem, and definitely the seats that I've seen that were overtalked, you could clearly see on the plastic how they cracked and got damaged. But yeah, we've had no problems at all since Shark came and did the repair work. Let's go forward onto the bridge. Oh, actually, just while we're on it, if you look at the back of these seats, this is a standard sticker that Shark affixes to them. And this here is a little QA sticker that Shark affixed during the checking of every seat. So every seat that was replaced now has a little QA sticker on it, ticked off that it's properly torqued, etc., etc. Right, so getting on the bridge, so we're now standing right here between the two forward seats. If we start by looking backwards, we've got mounted a kicker hook on one side and a boat hook on the other side. Skinny mentioned that you guys like a longer boat hook. That's fine. You can see there's plenty of space here to extend it. It should be fine on those two Railblazer brackets. If it whips around too much because of the length, you can take this one and move it forward. So looking at the side pillars, we have installed extra speakers for the VHFs, because the VHFs, we found the internal speaker was difficult enough to hear from someone forward. You couldn't hear them in the back of the boat, so we've put extension speakers on. Incidentally, if these are not working, it's a setting in the radio to turn them on. I think you and I looked at it when we came over, Skinny, and I think I've turned them on.
I think they were working, John. Yeah.
Yeah. If not, there's you just turn them. There's a setting in the radio setup, turn them on or turn them off. Now, on your boat, we know the story. Your UHF was missed during installation. So there's a place being left here for a second speaker. And that's the location for your UHF. Now, Lance, in the email trail, my understanding now, tell me if I'm not correct, is that Rayglass is going to take the unit out of your old boat when you send it over to them.
Yep.
Correct?
I've done it. Yeah.
Okay. Then we'll get hold of it at Rayglass. I've spoken to Tim at the refit shop. He will then take and fit a front panel and support to it, which will then let you guys just cut one size hole there and drop it straight in. The wiring, the power is behind here. That's no, so that's there already, and there's a circuit breaker for it. Pulling the speaker wire through to here is easy. You take this off. There's a great big round hole here. You just put a wire or a electrician tape or something through and put the speaker wire through. And the only thing remaining then will be to put the antenna up. The antenna location is on this side because the AIS antenna is on this side. But again, once you've got a hole cut here for the speaker, it's relatively easy to pull the wires through. The worst comes to the worst, you might have to remove one of these other radios to feed the wire through. But it's not a major. So zooming in on the pillar for a moment, looking at it closer, this particular picture, you can see the two speakers. There's one switch here. It says red, white, side light. It operates a light on the roof, one on the port side, one on the starboard side. Now it can be switched either red or white. You flick it up, it turns that light on red. You flick it down, it turns that light on white. So it's quite handy if you're coming alongside a vessel at night and you're passing over lines, but you don't want to destroy your night vision. You flick it up and you get a nice red light on the side of the boat. You get back to the dock and you need a lot of light because you're unloading or tying boats up on the side of the dock and so on. You flick it down and you've got a nice white light. So there's one on each side of the roof. Below it is a handheld VHF remote. It is not a VHF in itself. It is a wireless control which you can pair with either one of your VHFs. And what it does is it then fully controls that VHF. So while you walk around with it, you see you can control channels, volume, everything just with this remote. So quite handy if somebody's up front and they need to use the VHF, or if you step onto another vessel and you need to communicate via VHF. This thing's got quite a range. You walk around with it. It is a inductive charger that it's mounted in, so it charges while it sits there. I have found on our boat, if you leave it on when you're sitting in the seat, you get a bit of an annoying echo. So I find I leave it off generally. If I want to use it, I pick it up and I turn it on.
We just go back to the zoomed in image, please, JK. Guys, when you're taking this handset out, I reckon, well, the best way to do it is to put your two fingers, your index finger and your middle finger, on the two tabs to pull it out. Otherwise, you will break the bracket.
Yeah.
It happens quickly. It happens easily. They are not very strong, unfortunately. That's a bit of a fail on the design for taking it out. But if you try and pull it out straight out from the bottom or even from the top without pushing those tabs, yeah, that bracket won't last long.
Yeah, it's a good thing you mentioned that, John. The way I do it is I put imagine putting your right hand over this and then your thumb ends up here. I find with my thumb I can push them out of the way. But we've had the same. We have broken them too. On one of our previous boats, I actually took one of these off because it was so hard to get out. Took one of these off and then you only had one to press. It was a whole lot easier than two. On both sides here and on the starboard side, we have put power outlets. Now, some units have used plug-in handheld spots for searching out the side of the vessel. Some units have changed to rechargeable LEDs, but we've put these power sockets in the side. I'm not sure what you guys have got. Have you still got plug-in handheld spots?
No, we had them stolen. Now we've just got handheld unit for the battery charger arrangement.
Okay, so you won't use this. It's not a cigarette lighter plug. It's a proper marine type 2-pin plug, and this is the plug to put on the end of the cord. So for you guys, just take this out, put the plug over it, and
unless you feel like you want some spotlights, guys, feel free. Order them on Cops. Happy to supply those.
Okay, they just that's handheld without the cables are actually quite good, eh, Wayne?
Yeah.
You can move.
Oh,
around.
that Energizer one you've got.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Oh no, you've got the Bernsko one, haven't you? The 1500.
Oh, we only used them once.
Yeah.
But they were handy at the time.
anyway, as I said, the units were split on whether they wanted it or not, so we thought I would just put them in all the boats.
Yep, all good.
Come around to the nav station. This is a little red light on a flexible arm, which you've seen. Just put it down and turn the switch on, and you've got enough light to do some writing or whatever you need down here. Now, what we've aimed to do on switches on the boat, we've traditionally, and I'm not sure what your boat is, I'm guessing your existing boat has got most of the switches around the helm, because that's the way it would have been built at the time. Some Coast Guard boats, our old one certainly, ended up with a whole lot of switches here, and if anybody wanted anything switched on anywhere on the boat, they had to ask the navigator to find the switch and switch it on. We have removed any of that sort of double switching and put the switches where they belong. For instance, this side light, that's the switch there. There is no other switch for it. So we've tried to put switches in the location where the light is that you're needing. So we haven't ended up with too many switches at the nav or the helm. Right, so there is your Marinco spot control, which I'm sure you've seen already. I have ordered, and it's at BP, awaiting payment, the remote one for you guys. So you've got a little lanyard on it, and you can walk around the boat with it. So somebody could be standing up on the foredeck operating the Marinco spot. I've got one of those for you. Dash storage. This Perspex lid comes up, and there's preset storage down there. Things don't go flying around, but when you drop the storage, it's a nice surface to write on. We've also, in this front section of it here, we've put a permanent partition across so that when it's closed, your pens and stuff that you need all the time don't disappear under the shelf. So this is a little, when it's open, you can drop a cell phone or a couple of pens or whatever you need in there. We've put this drop down shelf here. You can have it up if you like. You can do a bit of writing on it. It's got some sharp corners on it, so you certainly wouldn't want it up while you're underway in any type of sea, but then you wouldn't be writing on this if you were underway. It's got a little detachable whiteboard part of it. You'll see there's a little recess for the thumb and there's a piece of Velcro to hold it in place. Quite handy if you want to discuss with the crew how you're going to set up a barge or whatever. You just pull it out, grab a whiteboard marker, chat about it, draw things on it. You can also use it to hold over the side of the boat to show somebody a cell phone number or whatever. Then on the nav, down here, there's a USB socket and a cigarette lighter socket there. Switches. So on the nav side, as you'd expect, the wiper washer for nav. We couldn't, without extensive modifications and changing the windscreen wipers, come up with wipers that were operated from either side. Some boats have got controls on both sides to control both wipers. So the port wiper is operated from port, starboard from starboard on this boat. Port wiper, port washer. Now we've got light bar, working light, and strobe light. These are on the roof, and I'll show you them when we come around to the roof light. So the point is, the roof spots and strobes are switchable from the nav station, other than those side illuminating lights that we spoke about here. Moving over, looking up, you've got your two VHF radios. Typical units run 16 on starboard, 6.4 on port. They clip in here. I was sort of not sure about these at the start with the mics up here and the wires hanging down, but I must say it's grown on me. I quite like the radios up there now. We've put a repeater here. Now you can program this to display whatever you want. I personally would display depth and speed. Depth is particularly handy, excuse me, because helm can be coming into a shallow area, needs to watch where he's going, got a lot to concentrate on. He can ask somebody anywhere on the boat, say, call the depth for me. So anybody just needs to look up at that and they can call the depth. We split it. We've got one on each side, depth on one side, speed on the other side. I think at the moment one of these is depth and speed displayed together, if I'm not mistaken, Skinny. Unless,
But we have had people playing with it, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's unit choice what they put up there. Engine gauges. Now these engine gauges, a little bit of a story around them. In these you can display various things like engine temperature, oil pressure, fuel level, engine hours, and so on, just by punching the mode. If you use this for displaying your fuel level, it gives a percentage. Now that percentage is obtained from the float switch in the tank. And it is at best, should only be used as indicative. Don't take that as gospel. In the Marshall program, we'd go out on 75% and come back on 80%, only because your crew was standing on the other side of the boat. Don't go off that. Use your fuel management system. For instance, we brought a boat back from Rayglass the other day. When I got it from Rayglass, it said 0. So I was very concerned. We got somebody to bring 20 litres down, and I limped back to ABC, and when I filled it, it had 120 litres in the tank. But this was displaying 0. So don't get too dependent on this. So you've got revs, 2 engines, you've got speed. We don't use this speed. We tend to go with the GPS. On the side here are trim tabs. But I think you'll find a helmsman who knows what he's doing will probably not look at the tabs. You go by feel and sound. But it is handy to sort of know where they are, and you can say to a new helmsman, look, get the trim up to wherever it is. I think on the 9s, I say to people, as an indication, your trim should sort of sit across that bottom arrow. That's what we find quite nice. I'm not sure what this boat is. Right, so looking at the switches at the helm. On this side, on the left-hand side at the helm, top one is the horn. So that's easily reachable by the helm or somebody standing on the nav side. And then navigation lights. Your nav lights, stern and masthead light, Flick on towing light if you want it, anchor light. So nav lights are your port and starboard red and green. Stern and masthead are your white aft facing light and your white forward facing light. And towing light flicks on the second forward facing light and the yellow towing light. Anchor light is the all-round white. Here are 2 spare switches if you guys put something in one day. And down the bottom here, this backlight. We had hoped, but we were disappointed that these switches would have had to be entirely replaced to be switchable for the light level in them to work along with switching the light level in your instruments. We couldn't do that easily. So this switch here is a single switch that turns off the backlight in every one of these banks of switches. 2 on helm and 1 on nav. All that is left if you turn this light off is the little red glow in this white section of the light when the light is on. So at night you can flick those off. If you need to find a specific switch, it's the bottom one here you turn on, and then all of a sudden all these labels light up. Switches on the other side, as you'd expect, the starboard helm and washer. Freshwater, now that is the switch that turns on the freshwater pump, which will deliver fresh water to your basin and your shower. Fridge goes with that.
So that fresh water pump, is that like a pressure pump? So if your basin and shower are both turned off, then it won't run?
Yeah, correct. So what happens, you know the story, you turn that on, it goes zzz, and then as the pressure builds up, it turns itself off.
Yep, sweet.
And then as you open a tap, it turns itself on again. Good idea to leave it off, because if you've got any sort of water leak anywhere, the thing comes on and off. And the same thing is, you know, why leave all your plastic pipes pressurized if you're not using them. Fridge goes without saying. And this fire pump, so that's the switch we've been talking about that should switch on and off the pump in the back.
Yeah. So we were not getting we may have had that other one turned off, or it was daytime, so we weren't seeing the backlight, but we were not getting that little bar that you say that gets illuminated right where your pointer is. We weren't getting power to that switch. Yeah,
there's something gone a bit funny there, like a loose contact or something.
Yeah.
I need a little bit of tracking. It doesn't sound like a major, and the fact that it was working makes me think it's probably some silly little thing. So hopefully it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
Bilge pump. So this is your manual bilge pump switch. If we drop down below those and we look at this bunch of switches, this is there you get the bottom one of that bank. So this is the switch for your auto bilge pump. If you turn it down, it switches the pump on. If you turn it up, the pump will turn on only when the float switch sets it off. Now you cannot turn this pump off. Turn all the batteries off, this pump will stay on. It won't be running, but it will run if water gets into the hull. Something to be cautious of and aware of, and I guess you had the same problem on your other boat. We were caught out on the 2 10-meter center consoles that stood at Team New Zealand for a long time. And when we put them on the market, the batteries were basically buggered. And what had happened is, in the rain, the bilges kept filling up and these pumps kept running and totally flattened and destroyed the batteries. So, something to consider. Right, let's have a look at fuel management. Remember I said use this as an indication of where your fuel level is, but really, and I'm sure you do it on your current boat, in the Simrad screen, you go up top left and you call up settings and select fuel, you get a display which says fuel used, refuel, vessel setup. Now vessel setup you shouldn't have to do, we've only done it once. If you go into vessel setup, you get into this screen and you can set, you want the remaining measurement fuel consumed by the engines. You can change this to indicated by the the level gauge in the tank. As I said, I wouldn't advise that. You want a fuel consumed by engines. Vessel total fuel capacity. Now this picture was of a 9-meter screen. Yours is set here to 950 liters. When you say full the vessel, this on yours, this automatically resets to 950 liters and counts down. So if you get a reading of 600 here, it means you've got 600 liters left in the tank. provided the last person reset it when they filled the tank. If you don't reset this when you fill the tank, you will have no idea how much fuel you got in the tank. So as I said, we've set it at 950. So when your vessel runs down to 0, theoretically you should have about 150 liters in the tank. You can set that to 1,000 if you like. I wouldn't set it to the total capacity of the tank. I'd set it to read 0 when you've got something in reserve.
It might be an easy one to add to your refueling SOP, guys. You've got a pretty solid refueling SOP.
Yeah, we have the same situation on Afina. We had to reset it every time. That was our only.
Yep. Then your fuel you read from your engine management system, not those little gauges. Right, so as I said, this is set to 950 for your vessel. We took a view and said, 150 in reserve. Feel free to change it if you like. I think 950 is not a bad one. Not quite sure what this setting is for, but don't worry about it. So ignore the vessel setup. That you should only do once and it's probably done. Have a look at it and change this if you like, but don't keep changing that. When you go to refuel, it's the same thing. You press fuel, you press refuel, and you get onto this screen. Now, you can either, if you fill the vessel like most Coast Guard units do, when it's full, you put a tick in that box, and what it does is it sets this here to read 950 liters.
So which gauge is this the one up on the top?
This is on your
On the actual
on the chart plotter.
on chart plotter, okay.
Okay, so this picture here, number 4, is of the screen if you are into the mercury display. It's down bottom left. There's another way of getting into it too, and you can set this up, but there your fuel displays. Now, as I said, that's counting down in your case from 950.
Beautiful.
So here you will have 254 liters to go before you get into reserve. Now, so certainly most units that I know fill the boats, never put in a bit of fuel, they always fill them. But however, you go somewhere and somebody's credit card maxes out at $200 or whatever it is, and you can only put in 150 liters. You can say here 150 liters. Then what it does is it adds 150 to whatever is displayed here, and it will still display correctly.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fill the vessel to get this to display correctly, but you have to then put in how much fuel you've put in.
Yeah.
So repeat, set to full, resets this to 950, add 150 liters here, it'll add 150 there.
So if we are anywhere, its fuel's going to be so much cheaper than ours. We'll be filling up.
For sure. And you're going to tick that, and it's going to display 950, which is what it was when you got the vessel. So Skinny, I think we were down to 780 from memory. 680.
Yeah. Once we got out to the island.
Yeah, we started off at 880 from memory.
Yeah, we used about 70 liters when we did the sea trials.
Yeah, so we got about 880, and then when we left, and then I think we were down to about 630. I think we used about 250 liters to get to the island, didn't we? So yours is probably displaying 600 and something liters, and that is the fuel that's left in your tank.
Yeah, beautiful.
And we
plus the 150 reserve.
Yeah, we did hammer it a couple of times going out too, so it was actually pretty impressive that that's all it took.
Oh yeah, we couldn't keep your hand off the throttle, mate.
Not all we can't keep his hand off.
He claims to be a yachty, but he's a petrol head on the quiet. Let me tell you. Set to empty, you can set that to 0 if you like. I'm not quite sure why one would need to do that. So okay, so this, as John said, I'm sure you're doing it already on your vessel, but it's very important that you do this, because if you get this wrong when you refuel, that's a nonsense number, and the only way you're going to get that number right then is to go and fill the tank and start again. There's no knowing how much fuel is in if you don't. Also on this, you can set fuel flow and that sort of thing. Skinny and I were doing that on the Saturday. So you've got that chart that I laminated on the boat, give you an idea of fuel usage.
I got an explanation. You know how we were getting slightly different fuel flow readings on the two engines?
Yes, there's an economy as well, but carry on.
Oh, well, it might have been the economy, but the explanation is the port engine rotates counterclockwise, and there's an extra gear in it to make that happen. So your port engine is generally always going to burn a little bit more fuel.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. It makes sense, but I never heard that before. Okay,
Yeah, well, that's from Grant Seniors, so
I know what he's talking about.
yeah, I think he does. Yeah.
Okay, your bow thruster. On and off, you've got to press the 2 on buttons together to turn it on. And I think like most bow thrusters, it'll turn itself off after several minutes. The little light comes on when it's on.
These new ones seem to be, it's got quite a long time before they turn off. Like 10,
Yeah.
we're talking 10 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how long, but they do turn themselves off.
Yeah, but I also suspect it'll have a thermal cutout too.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It's not something you use all the time. Okay, so moving on, let's look down here for a start. You see these 3 instruments down here. Battery switches, these little black slides, you slide them down, dunk, 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 and you press them on, on, on. So your port engine battery, your house battery, and your starboard engine battery. And as I said, as you press these, you should hear a solid clunk. You'll hear a clunk from port aft, you'll hear a clunk from starboard aft, and you'll hear a clunk from the house battery switch, which I'll show you where it's located in a moment. To turn them off, you slide the slides up, 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 and clunk, 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 turn them off. Easy as. And as I said, if you don't hear that clunk, you go and find it and you push the little yellow button in. It's something, we've had them for years and I don't think we've ever had a problem with them, but if you do have a problem, you can go and turn them on manually. Sorry, also at this location, we have the circuit breaker here, which is for the
Windlass.
The windlass.
Yeah.
Okay, circuit breaker isolator for the windlass. Now the reason being, because of the heavy current in this, an ordinary circuit breaker just can't cope with it. So you've got this one, and what it is, you can see this little red arm down here. If it's tripped, the arm sits down here, and you just push it back up. That's a test. As you depress that, clunk, the little red arm comes down here. Now this one here is also a similar thing, and also says Maxwell. However, this is for your heater, your windscreen heater. Okay, we've got a windscreen demister system in the boat. So again, there's a little switch for it, but if something goes wrong with it, it's quite a heavy current draw, it will trip and this little yellow arm will stick down. Yeah, there's a little diagram. Stick it down, push it back up again. Now, this heater, because of the current draw, is wired in that it will only work if your starboard engine is running. Not only switched on, but actually running. Just tucked down here behind, next to the seat is the EPIRB. Initially, when people look at it, they say, oh, that EPIRB could be moved. Once you know it's there, I don't think it's a bad place at all. Some units might opt to move it up here, but you'll find if it's here, the person sitting in the seat whacks their shoulder on it. So I think it's no reason to move it. Throttle controls. I'm not sure what you've got on yours, but you've probably got a couple of generations back on that 2000 boat. You don't have a little depressible lever underneath these to put it in neutral. You know, when you want to rev an engine, you put it in neutral and you push them forward. You will push this little button and this little red light glows, and then it is in neutral. Then you can push the throttles forwards and backwards, and all you will do is rev the engines. You won't engage gear. To get it into gear, you have to press this again and turn this little light off. So that's how you keep it in neutral. There's an interesting system on these boats. You guys will know you can't usually start an outboard in gear. You've got to put it in neutral and start it. These you can start. If these throttles are pushed forward, you can start the engine. However, it will start in neutral. And the only way to get it into gear is to pull the lever back to neutral and then go forward again. So sometimes we found people would move and pull the cutout switch off, put the cutout switch off, and without putting the levers back to neutral, they would start the engines and then push them down and the boat wouldn't go because it started in neutral. You need to pull these back to a neutral position to get it to engage again. Transfer, not applicable here. This is if you've got a fly bridge on a boat and you've got another helm station, you can press that and you transfer to the other one. Sync is you can leave it on or you can put it off, but it tends to sync the engines quite nicely if they're within a couple of hundred revs of each other. You see if you're going along and you can watch the revs on the engines, and they will tend to sync themselves if you've got one slightly out of a line. Yeah, you can use it. One lever, you press that and both throttles are worked off. One lever, some people use it, some people don't. Docking mode is an interesting one. All this does is it desensitizes the throttles. We found during the America's Cup, some of the marshals used it because they were guys that their only experience with outboards had been their little 2 horsepower tender, so they tended to throw people off the back of the boat when they were doing close quarters maneuvering because they put far too much power on. The Coast Guard guys didn't like that docking feature because we're used to the power, so you put very little power on when you're close quarters maneuvering, and if you've got this dock on, it's almost like your engines aren't reacting at all if you're used to the power. So play around with it and please yourselves. You can use it or you needn't use it. Light level for the lights displayed behind here, up and down. Little neutral lights come on green when they're in neutral. Separate trims, port and starboard. You've also got one trim that takes both engines up and down. All good? Yeah, so this column here, same thing. We got a speaker, we got the starboard pillar, we got 3 lights here. Okay, I've just bigger picture here. So this red, white side light is the same one on the other side. Little light that's on the roof. Press it up for red, down for white. Floodlights. These are the 2 lights that I showed you on the back edge of the roof, and these are the footlights. So again, we've put the switch where somebody would need it. You're on the aft deck, you want the lights on, you go and switch them on. You don't have to ask somebody to put them on for you. All right? Same thing with the dome lights. There's one here, there's one in the cabin. They switch on at the light themselves. You don't have to ask somebody to turn them on for you. You've discovered the skylight, and you've discovered they had a screw loose in one of these. I think it was here. The picture was, wasn't it, Lance?
Not the only screw loose around here. Hey, Lance.
This was where the picture was taken, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes. Yeah, so we'll probably have to remove the whole bar from the skylight to actually do that, but that's right.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I know what you mean. You can't get in the back here. Yeah.
I mean, it looked like that it was supposed to have a nylock nut in there.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, there's no room. Like the nuts actually inset into the plastic work, so it can't have just been done up, tightened up originally, and vibrated out. Skinny's fucking hazardous driving.
Yeah, probably. I think what we must remember is these boats have the hours aren't very high. They've been used for 2 years, so we are going to find little things like that, unfortunately. This your boat clock needed for survey. There's a pin light battery in this. It's not powered off the boat, so that's going to go flat from time to time. Just open it up and replace the pin light battery. In fact,
We wondered why it wasn't going. There's no battery in it.
Yeah, we set it for barrier time.
Yeah.
Double
O.
Okay, let's move on into the cabin. So, was there anything else anybody wanted to comment on or question on the bridge?
No, this is very helpful.
Right, moving into the cabin. That's your door to the heads. Starting at the back, you've got a fridge down there.
Yep.
Make sure that that's topped up when John and I come out for a visit.
Yeah.
Now, we spoke about extinguishers.
A bit of Castle Lager.
No. I wouldn't know what that tastes like anymore after 25 years. So we have mounted your foam extinguisher here.
Yep.
And we have mounted your powder extinguisher, fits in the locker here. So you've got powder here, you've got powder out on the bridge, and you've got foam down there. This, again, your shore power, whether you're going to need it or not, so it's got a 250 on the side. And here's the battery charger. And I'm wondering if somehow we can wire your
Solar into that.
solar
Yeah.
power into here. The solar power I know gives very, very little power. It's really just a trickle charge.
Yes.
But it's worth going into. You don't want to have a solar panel that you've got to move the clamps around to different batteries and so on if you don't have to.
Yep.
These here,
Sorry, just jumping back. So that would distribute the power to both house and start batteries.
yes. The
Okay.
battery charger has the battery management system will charge the flattest battery to maintain the level in all three batteries.
Okay, beautiful.
Assume it's plugged into a shore power. Then you've got a 230 volt AC outlet here if you are in shore power. Nothing behind here except the back of your multifunction display on the nav side. There's a little shelf in here. You can store a couple of little things. Right, so what we've done is we have put a net on here. You can see this net is removable, or you can just drop it down. So you can keep anything soft just stored in here, crew bags, blankets and stuff. I would suggest, and you can see the way we've put this netting on, it actually goes under the seat squab. If you're going to use this for soft storage, I would take that seat squab out entirely, because all it does is it takes up space, and below it there is some storage as well. So if you take that seat squab out, this becomes a very big and deep storage for soft gear. We had to keep a squab in here to get another for another person for survey, because there's got to be a seat. Biggest mod in the cabin, as you would have noticed, is this shelving unit. 3 Pelican cases. They're empty. They've got pluck and, what do they call it, pick and pluck foam or something, and you can put in there what you like. People said, oh, we should standardize what's on all the boats. I don't think any of us would live long enough to be able to standardize what's in those. So the best we could do is we said to them, guys, every vessel will be the same. There will be 3 Pelican cases there. It's up to the units to decide what they put in there. Just a matter of interest. We have, this is a 1600, these are 1550s. We have managed to put our defibrillator and all the oxygen gear in this one. So that's what we call our resus. One of these is our full first aid gear. We call that the trauma. And then we've used the other one to put our night gear in. So we keep personal EPIRBs, lights, bits and pieces that we use for night all in one place. So if you're going to go out at night, somebody just grabs that one and all the gear you need is in there. Some might use it for a grab bag. Please yourselves. The rest of the stowage is put in here, whatever you like. There's some stowage up the top there as well. As I said, one of these fits this extinguisher. We've put a compartment in here. There's an A3 folder in here for charts. You could probably find a nautical almanac goes in here as well. Now, interestingly enough, I have not been able to source robust, clear inserts for the charts. So I would advise you just to fold your charts up the right size and just store them in here. There's a little fiddle in the front here that they don't fall out. Handy place to keep them. Up there we've got the demister unit. That's what it looks like. We couldn't fit the diesel one, particularly on the 9-meter boats. There just wasn't enough space, and we came across this one. It doesn't blast out scalding hot air, blows out warm air at best. The heat source is quartz iodine bulbs. You know how hot they get. So that's the heat source in here. And it's switchable. We can see where we had to get the ducting in to run it up under the windscreen. Switchable from there. Demister controls. There's a switch to switch it on, and a fan speed which changes the heat as well. Now on this one, after this photo was taken, Skinny, you would have seen it. In this location, we have a port to put an extinguisher in.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to get something behind your switchboard. So there's a port that was put in after the photography was done. Keep going around this side. I think we've largely covered this off.
Whilst we're on the Pelican cases there, JK,
Pardon?
guys, whilst you're showing the Pelican cases, one thing we haven't talked about, guys, is whether or not you're interested in a trauma pack, which you currently don't have, a trauma bag, similar to what the police have in most of their iCars. Have a think about what you might like. I have an option that we put on the one of the 9-meter training boats. Economical, easy to use, color coded, or you may like to set something up similar to what you've got in the fire trucks. Whatever works best for you guys, but it would be good to have something a little bit more than a first aid kit.
Yeah,
That's currently on.
trauma kit would be great.
Yeah,
So
so just have a think about what you would like in that, and we'll source it. We'll get it for you.
And we were thinking of where that strap's going across holding those Pelican cases in. We're thinking we could possibly organise something there with a lock that we can actually secure those from theft.
Understood.
Yeah, good thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, you put some bolts through. Yeah, yeah, you might want to put a chain or something out because this will go through with a pocket knife in no time flat.
Yeah.
What I might do is, on that suggestion of yours, John, I'm going to take a photograph of the inside of North Shore's 2 cases because we've got that same as you were talking about, the color-coded trauma pack in here.
Yeah, and I'll send you the pictures of the one I put on the training boat. I'll send it to everybody.
I'll have
So
a
you
look.
can have a look.
I'm going to put a little hotspot in here to show those pictures.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yes.
So there's quite a bit of storage here for bits and pieces still. Your stretcher, you've seen where that is. Down the bottom there. I think that's taken in a photo's taken a 9-meter vessel. This here is the squab that would go underneath here. So the idea is if this vessel ever gets sold one day, you remove this shelf is still in the back here, you place that squab in there and the cabin is back to a standard off-the-shelf protector. Similarly on the aft deck, if you remove that box, you can see there's 4 little brackets on it. If you remove that box, the aft deck is returned to normal recreational vessel. Coming up here, just in here behind this panel, pull it off, and there is your house circuit breaker. Same sort of circuit breaker as the start engine we saw at the back, and there's the little button that you would put on the top, push on the top. These boats had fuses when they were built. For some reason, we didn't like that at all. We spent a lot of money replacing them. There are still a couple of fuses around, but they're not the type of fuse that'll blow easily. Here's a house switch, 1 amp. I'm not sure what this is, quite honestly. But so we replaced all the fuses with a decent switchboard. So you would have found, where's your pump?
I don't know if we found it, did we? Did we find
Yeah, no, we found
We did find a switch.
And there was no power to it.
Okay, so
You said when you turned it on, you didn't. The little light here wasn't glowing, or was
Yeah,
it?
that's right.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You can see this gas detector was off. This was during the time when you had a fault before we replaced it. Yeah, somewhere there's bilge pump.
Yeah, fire pump
Flirt.
to the right a little bit, maybe.
Where did you find it?
but it hadn't. So the circuit breaker hadn't blown, but there was just no power going to it.
Yeah, you could put the circuit breaker on, but there was
It's dead.
no one was home.
I can't quite find it now. So you can see on your boat, it's quite easy to get your head in front of this and see. There's a couple of spares. But on the 9-meter, we got the shelving in here. It's a bit difficult to get your head in, so we've put little laminated
Oh yeah.
charts here that people can see it easier. I think that's it for the cabin. So yes, I think we've supplied ample storage for people to put on. The problem is when you get more storage, you find you collect more junk on the boat.
John, just while you're still in that cabin, the low point in the cabin, that's below sea level?
Yes, you and I discovered that, didn't we?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've actually got, if you got pooped, you've literally got nothing stopping that water coming into your cabin.
No, except a little step here.
If you get a wave break into the
Onto the back.
back.
Yeah, you've also got a big step in the deck here and then this step. So I think it's unlikely, but yet it was interesting that there's not drain holes down here. If you get water in here, you've got to start your pump and pump it out.
No,
No,
there's no drainage
That's
at
all sealed
all in
off.
that area.
The surveyor would put up if he thought it was.
It was, yeah.
Skinny and I got a bit of a start on the way over. Did you tell the story, Skinny?
Oh, I think John had a few beers in a pack with ice, and we had this.
We discovered water on the floor, and we were a bit panicky at one point, and it was coming out of the chili bin of ice.
Disaster.
Yeah, imagine losing your ice.
The question is though, Skinny, did your box of wine survive?
The box of wine survived nicely, thank you.
But it hasn't survived since.
No.
No, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I always thought that this was the Heads. I didn't realize it was the grocery shopping store, but
Yeah.
your wine and everything was in here. Okay, Heads, electric Heads, but no holding tank. So restricted in where you can use it.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We put it, this wasn't in here. I think Grey Glass are going to improve it, include it in future boats, but we put something in here. It's quite handy if you've got wet weather gear, you just hang it here where it can drip and not damage anything. Same thing as another light in here. Do you guys know these lights?
No.
Just go to the cabin and just show you what they are. So there's one in the cabin, one in the Heads, one on the bridge. What they are, they have two buttons. It's just a touch button. Put your finger on that, it comes on red. You put your finger on that, it comes on white. And if you hold your finger on that, the light scrolls in intensity, gets brighter and brighter and brighter, then starts dim again. And wherever you remove your finger from, that's the level it stays at. And then just a quick touch on it turns it on and off to that level. So whatever level you leave it at, it's got a memory. It stays in that for the next time you turn it on.
Yeah, awesome.
Sometimes cold fingers need a bit of a lick and a rub, I find. Okay, to come back to the Heads, you got those. Oh, you got two lights in the Heads on each side. Wow. So that's that'll be fresh water. A little bit of, it's more just to get the plumbing underneath there. A little bit of storage in there. In this locker forward, you have a little bit of storage and another hatch there. If you open that hatch, you look down at right into the bilge. Okay, so you wouldn't store stuff there, but you could get to these skin fittings if you needed them.
So generally, are they below water level? So you leave them off all the time?
Well, this is your guys' decision what you do with skin fittings. You know, is it something that you leave off? Maybe your, I think this one is probably just your basin discharge. This is probably toilet. Don't know what the other one would be.
Yeah, they're all got valves.
One would be I think a toilet discharge would probably be bigger than this, I'd say.
Yeah, so probably water into the.
Although the macerator pump may look, it's if it was my boat, I would go through and turn them off when I left the boat.
Yeah, I reckon.
I know some people leave them open. It's an operating procedure. Now, this is interesting. So there, it looks like if I look in there that there's a little hole there that looks like a hole to me, doesn't it? Which could only be from. Anyway, there's not much here, much to the Heads really. So let's go and look on for a deck. And I see here there's no storage underneath here. The Heads is underneath here. Here, can we see it? Oh yeah, there we go. 1, 2, 3 inflation points. Okay, so one on each side is these tubes here, and then the forward one is the V that goes all the way around the front. Your capstan up front there's the foot switch or knee switch, however you want to use it. Obviously that's only winding up because your anchor you let down with gravity. Now, as I said to you, I have a bowsprit which I'm waiting for the stainless clamp. When I get it, you'll get out to you, and it clips on here and extends over the front of the tube. It's quite a mission to pick the anchor up and put it over it, but once it's over it, it keeps the chain and rope well clear of the tubes for hauling it up and down. An anchor locker, nice big 35-pound anchor in there. Only 3 meters of chain, strangely enough. In this locker here, you have life rings and suction hoses. One of these rings has been moved to the back of the pump box with the light. So there are your 3 suction hoses. And below this shelf here, this little locker top here is your bow thruster, if you should ever need to get to it.
So just out of interest, John, when Grant came on board, he reckons they should all be kind of sealed in a, there's some kind of product you can get to, because he said they'll corrode and give you problems. So
What, the cables?
the connection points.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you call that stuff? Soft seal.
Get some soft seal on there.
That sort of
Yeah.
brown sticky stuff, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt.
Just remember, if you're spraying it, just well ventilated or wear a ventilator mask because that stuff is nasty.
Yeah.
It's worth covering your salvage pump, your petrol pump as well. It'll make it last a bit longer.
Yeah, I don't know what if you guys have a pump like that on the boat. I must say at North Shore we replace that pump every year, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
Good. Right, so looking up at the roof, there's a better shot of the roof. Now, no, let's have a look from the foredeck. That's actually not a bad. Let's look at this first. 2 forward-facing bar lights. Remember at the nav we had roof lights 1 and 2. One is beam and one is spread. You can turn them on individually or together. So you've got one switch for each one. Spread beam or more focused beam. You've got the 2 little lights on the side there, which we spoke about, switched from the aft pillars. On the arch itself, these are the other spots which are switchable from the nav station. Now, on your boat, you'll see they're sort of standing at about 45 degrees. The reason being, we had envisaged making them face forward. Some of the lakes units said, no, they do a lot of shoreline searches. They want them to face sideways. So we said, okay, they're mounted on a swivel at the bottom. You loosen the nut and you aim them any way you want. So they're not the sort of thing that you're going to change all the time, but you decide if you want them to face forward or sideways or 45 degree, set them up, tighten them up and leave them like that. So that's unit preference. Loud halo, it's connected to the port VHF. And I don't know if you've got one of these, it's omnidirectional. When you set the radio onto loud hailer, you can actually listen. So if somebody's standing on the shore shouting, this serves as a microphone.
Ooh.
Quite handy, but it's very directional. That's one of the downfalls of it. You need to aim the boat at the person you want to speak to. We had a long chat about this, and some of the units prefer handheld loud hailers, so they can then stand on the deck and aim it anywhere they like. But anyway, we put one of these on. Here's a nice grunty horn. There's your Marinco spot, which we spoke about. Now, the arch, you guys would probably never drop the arch. Oh, sorry, just stick to antennas. The 2 back antennas are VHF. This is AIS antenna. Your antenna will be here for the UHF. So let's look at the picture here. So the radar arch was probably one of the most challenging aspects of the refit. We really wanted to standardize, but some units like yourselves never take the arch down. Some units take them down every time they put them into the shed. Some take them down because they've got to tow them. Some take them down like the inner Gulf going into OBC, depending on the tide. So we ascertained that we determined the lowest height throughout the country, which was a shed height down south somewhere, and we built all the arches to fold down far enough. So you guys will never fold them down. As I said, some units will take them down every time they put them in the shed, but they are made to fold down, which I'll show you a video in a moment. So there's a better picture of what we were talking about. If some units, if we're going on a bridge, you don't have to take the entire arch down. You can actually just loosen this, and this top piece folds down and leaving the arch here, or you can fold the arch all the way down. What we've also done, all the wiring on the arch, traditionally people have put the wiring in the arch, in the tubing, to make it look neater, which is all very well until you've got to put another bit of electronics on or replace something, or weld a crack on the arch, and then you've got to get all the wiring out and you never get it back in again. So we've surface mounted the wiring. It's not a thing of beauty, but it's all easily accessible. What we've also done, instead of having half a dozen glands in the roof which will leak, we've got one electrical box here with a removable plastic lid, and all of the glands go into the back of this. So it's very, very easy. You just slide the arch to the back, you take the lid off, and all of your connections are there. Very easy to see and easy to work on. You don't have to strip off roof linings and all kinds of things. So those are the two. Oh, sorry, that was on the arch too. There's a rail blazer fitting there to take a toe flag. So if you take a toe flag and stick a rail blazer fitting on the bottom, you can just clip it in there. It's easy to take on and off. However, I understand there's moves to take away the toe flag from our operating procedures, John.
Yeah, I really hope that they're going to, with the revamp of the Red Book, that they're going to take the towing flag out of the checklist.
Yeah, as we know, it's not even a towing flag. It's a
No.
Yeah. So yeah, nobody knows what it means.
It's a blue and yellow flag that we like flying.
And everybody asks you what it means, and the only guys that know what it means are the Coast Guard units, and you get ragged about it when you forget to take it down. Okay, but there's our little bracket up there for it. So, looking at taking this arch down, if you ever need to, the best way to do it is one on each side, myself and John V. This is done on a 9 meter, so our access is a little bit better. Admittedly, on the 12.5 meter, the access is a little bit more difficult, but the 12.5 meters are seldom, if ever, going to take the arches down. For the video, I've taken it down myself to show it can be done. Ideally, you do it with two people. First thing is you undo the two little clips up front, and it's really just a half turn, and they hold themselves up. Slide the arch back. Loosen off these two forward knurled knobs.
It may be worth greasing the track every now and again, guys.
Yeah, a bit of a CRC or something. But as I say, you guys will never take the arch down, so and she comes down all the way down, leaving the highest point on the roof of that electrical box. Similarly picking it up. As I said, again, admittedly, the 12 meter is going to be a bit more challenging because the roof is another 8 or 9 inches higher. You probably would need two people, one on each side. Let's put that back in again. Slide it forward. It's a little bit finicky, but you do it once or twice and you get the hang of it. Slide it all the way forward. And a half turn on those. And she's locked back in position.
We have found that if you're doing it with two people, that you're likely to lock the tracks up. So you've got to be pretty even when you're sliding it back.
Yeah, it's like a draw, you know, if you put it on one side, it jams. One guy pulls a bit harder than the other and it jams a bit. So it takes a bit of wriggling. But as I say, you do it once or twice and you've mastered it pretty easy. And that is the end of all I need to, or I have to show you guys. So any questions? Anybody want to have a look at something else?
I think the main thing, JK, is for the guys on the island, just have a good play with everything. And if you find something that's not quite working, like the loose bolt or the fire pump not working, is note it all down, let us know, and we will make sure that it's either you guys have got the tools and the means to fix it, or we put a plan in place to get that rectified.
Yeah. Now that-
John, I see John found it in there. Put it in the chat. 450-litre water tank.
That's on the. I think that's what you had on the old boat, and I'm really assuming that's what the new boat has as well.
I wouldn't be less, sure.
Okay.
No.
That's certainly more than you guys will need on Dave's job.
So that was very helpful. Thank you, John. And obviously tiring for you to deliver time and time again. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, no, guys, I know there's been a couple little annoying things on the boat. No excuses, but we must remember these boats are 2 years old. And the other thing is, yours is the first off the line. So any little tips that you can give us can only help the next 3 units that are getting these boats.
But having this recorded, this is just going to be invaluable just as we bring people on board with the boat. This just gives them such a head start. Yeah, it's really great. Thank you. Which reminds me, I better stop recording at some time. Now, I'll have to find out where that recording is stored, and I'll get it. John, I don't know how you're going to put it on Teams or something somewhere it's accessible.
Yeah, if you once you found it, just let me know, and either send me a link, or we'll have we'll be able to put it into the barrier team.
I tell you, the other thing we can do with it is put it on YouTube. Then anybody can see it anyway, just with a link. You don't have to go into
if the guys are happy with that.
Download it.
Great idea. Thank you.
But, I mean, it's our video. We can do with it what we like. I think I might do that. I'll put the 9-meter on as well. Well, I haven't got a recorded 9-meter. The next time we do a 9-meter, I'll record it as well. All right, guys. So I'm sure we're going to hear more from you, or you'll hear from us. We want to get these things right.
So again, John, both Johns, when can we take this vessel out in the water?
All right. So after tonight, JK, you're going to let Darren know. Darren's going to issue a letter for Lance.
Yes, I gather Lance here at the moment, the only operational skipper.
Yes, I am, though we're working on Willie, and a text from him tonight shows that he's finding the doors are closing on him everywhere with his employment, so he may not be too far away.
Right. I'll read you an email from Darren this afternoon, specifically relating to you guys.
Hang on. Do you want to stop the recording first, JK?